Hey, this is Travis Shaw with the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area, following up on our earlier video about the action that took place at the Waterford Baptist Church on this day in 1862. Hopefully the rain and the thunderstorm has passed us by for now. So just to follow up on that action, of course we're talking about two opposing men, Elijah White and Samuel Means, both coming from the Loudoun County community, the men under their command coming from the local communities, and yet they find themselves on opposite sides during the American Civil War. Now, after that fight at the Waterford Baptist Church, both of these commands are going to remain in service for the rest of the Civil War. Elijah White and his 35th Battalion are going to operate alongside the Army of Northern Virginia through the rest of the war. They're going to find themselves involved in the Gettysburg campaign. They're going to be at the Battle of Brandy Station, a number of other large battles. They're also going to continue to occasionally operate here in Loudoun County as a guerrilla or a partisan unit, where they will occasionally encounter Sam Means and the Loudoun Rangers. Now, as for the post-war career of Elijah White, after the surrender in April of 1865, White and his men are going to return to their communities. Elijah White is going to establish himself here in Leesburg as one of Leesburg's most prominent post-war citizens. He is going to open a bank in town right across from the courthouse. The bank was located where the modern Lightfoot restaurant is. So again, a very architecturally beautiful, ornate, prominent building in the middle of town. Very, very symbolic of the role that Elijah White is going to play in the post-war years. And after his death, Elijah White is going to come here to Union Cemetery in Leesburg. Again, this is the largest, most prominent cemetery in town, where many of the town's most important citizens are going to be laid to rest. And Elijah White is going to be laid to rest under this large monument right behind me. Now, if White and his Comanches saw prominence through the rest of the war, the same cannot be said for Samuel Means and the Loudoun Rangers. The Rangers continue to operate primarily as scouts and partisans here in Northern Virginia, kind of operating to protect Northern Virginia's Unionist population, but they will not see the same kind of success, at least militarily, that other similar groups, guerrilla or partisan groups, are going to see. Men like Mosby's Rangers, White's Comanches, Cole's Maryland Cavalry. Unfortunately, the Loudoun Rangers never quite seem to rise to that level. And in 1864, Sam Means is actually going to give up command of the Loudoun Rangers when the Rangers are basically taken into the Department of West Virginia. Means had been promised an independent command. He did not want to see his command transferred, and so he is going to quit, although the men will remain and will continue to serve for the rest of the war. Now, just like Elijah White, Samuel Means is going to return to Loudoun County after the war as well. He returns to his native town of Waterford, where he continues to operate as a miller for several years before leaving milling and turning to the operation of a boarding house. He initially operates a boarding house outside of Lincoln, Virginia, not far from Waterford, and then eventually will establish a boarding house in Washington, D.C. And it's in Washington, D.C. that he will die in 1884. So unlike Elijah White, who's buried here in the Heritage area, Samuel Means, his wartime opponent, is actually buried at Rock Creek Cemetery in Washington, D.C. Now, if you'd like to learn more about these two men or the organizations that they commanded during the American Civil War, I've got two books that I'd like to recommend to you. The first book is on the Loudoun Rangers. It's by Lee Stone, a local historian who's done a tremendous amount of research into local Unionists, particularly the men who served under Sam Means in the Loudoun Rangers. And secondly, a new book has just been released just in the last few weeks on the 35th Battalion, on White's Comanches, by noted Civil War historian Horace Mewburn. Now, I'm very sad to say that this book was released posthumously. Mr. Mewburn did die recently, and incredibly tragic loss, not only for the field of Civil War studies, but also for us at the Heritage Area. He was a longtime supporter and friend of the Heritage Area. He was a frequent lecturer at our events, and again, he will be missed. But his book, which has just come out on White's Comanches, is the absolute definitive book on that unit. So you've got Lee Stone and the Loudoun Rangers, Horace Mewburn and White's Comanches. Both excellent reads that I cannot recommend highly enough. So thanks for joining us today. I think another storm is rolling in, so we're going to wrap things up. But again, we appreciate you guys following along, and we will see you again soon.